Hey guys, Paul here from familywheels.ca. Thanks for tuning in to another car review for your growing family. Today we're looking at a whole new segment of vehicles for the car companies to sink their teeth into. We're talking about the subcompact crossover segment. Think of the Honda HR-V, the Jeep Renegade, Chevy Trax. I even think that the Subaru XV kind of fits in there a little bit. And then of course this one right here behind me, it's the new Mazda CX-3. And you know, I'm not really one to swoon over how a vehicle looks, but man, I think this looks good. And it's incredible actually to think that this is just a dolled up Mazda 2. It's been lifted off the ground by about 6 inches. It has a lot more interior cargo space and it has those more aggressive wheel arches on it, but it's basically a dressed up hatchback. And that's what the HR-V from Honda is as well. It's a bigger Honda fit. It's the same platform though. It's a smart move on these companies' parts because, you know, a lot of people are really keen on the crossover market, but they want something a little bit smaller that they can drive around the city a bit more easily, park more easily. It's a bit lighter on fuel as well. My big question is it going to be enough room for day-to-day family life? And that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to put it through our raft of standardized tests, see how it stacks up, and see if the CX-3 might be a good fit for you. You know, I think that Mazda has been knocking it out of the park lately in terms of the look and the fit and finish of its vehicles, whether it's sedans, SUVs, crossovers, whatever. So I had high expectations for the CX-3 and they're totally matched. We've already talked about the great looks of the exterior, and when I stepped into the interior, it's fantastic as well. In terms of what you get for the base trim on this vehicle, which is about $20,000, you get quite a bit. Rear backup camera, a 7-inch infotainment system, cruise, air conditioner, 6-speed automatic transmission. Pretty solid kit, really. And the one thing is that you're not going to get all-wheel drive for that price. You need to spend another extra couple $1,000s to get that. Here in the GT line that I'm in today, that's the highest level trim, you're looking at about $30,000 for this vehicle. But man, the kit is amazing. Bose sound system, navigation, sunroof, these really cool sort of multi-textured leather seats, and paddle shifters. And I just think that this kind of sets the new bar for what you can get in a $30,000 crossover vehicle. It's slick, really slick. Regardless of the trim that you get, you're going to get the same engine, a 2-liter Skyactiv non-turbo engine. And perhaps because this car looks and feels so great, I had some really high expectations for the sportiness of this car, and it didn't quite match up with that. This gets around just fine, but it's not a growling beast by any means. It's the same engine that you're going to find in the Mazda 3. But if you do want to get a little bit sportier, you can press the sport button down here, and that'll change the throttle response, also how the car changes gears. It makes it a little bit funner to drive. And then if you're in the GT edition like I'm in here today, you've of course got the paddles to gear down into corners and pretend you're a race car driver. I do actually really like the way this car corners because the suspension has been tuned just right. It is fairly high off the ground, about 6 inches, but it still is tight and you don't get a lot of body roll when you're coming through the corners. That's good. In terms of the interior, I have a couple of beefs with this car as well. First up is the infotainment system. You've got the choice of using a touchscreen or this dial down here by my thigh until you start moving, that is. Then, all of a sudden, you get locked out of the touchscreen and you have to use this dial. Personally, I would say give me one or the other, enough with the redundancies, and my preference is touchscreens because we have them around us everywhere these days and they're very intuitive and straightforward to use. That's a little bit irksome. The other thing that bothers me is this heads-up display that I have here on the model that I'm in today. It displays information directly in front of the driver, sort of in a ghost-like image. Things like the speed you're traveling, your cruise control speed, whether you're departing a lane unexpectedly, if you have the lane departure recognition system as a feature in your car. And I like that. It's a cool idea, but it's been designed for people who are far, far shorter than me. I'm 6'2", and I actually have to go way down like this in order for me to see that information. The other thing that's kind of a little bit irritating, and I'm glad that we have a rear backup camera standard on this car, because the rear window doesn't give you a lot of visibility out the back. And then also, we were talking about the great lines on the exterior of this car. One of the downsides to that is the fact that the rear door panels are actually really high, and it affects my blind spots just a little bit. I feel like I'm in a little bit of a box. Okay, so let's put the CX-3 through our standardized test now, because I think this is really going to help demonstrate whether this car can work for a family of your size and the amount of gear that you've got to go along with your crew. First up is our trunk test, and you can see that if I lift the hatch here, we've got our standard amount of gear, 2 bags of groceries, a ball, fold-up stroller, a diaper bag, and a backpack. And it fits, but just, and you really wouldn't want to put anything else back there because it would start to affect visibility out of that rear window. One other thing that you might notice is that the sill for the trunk is rather high. It means that if you're grabbing groceries in and out of there, it's much easier because it's almost at sort of waist height for some people, so you wouldn't have to bend over to pick up your groceries. But one thing to think about, if you've got a dog in the family, that's a pretty high jump for the dog to take to get in and out, especially if they're getting on in age. Our dog probably wouldn't be too thrilled about that, and that's something to consider. Now here is where I think the CX-3 really starts to show its challenges for family life, and it's the seating configurations. I've put our rear-facing child seat in place, adjusted the front seat accordingly, and we have just over 7 inches of legroom. I mean, look at that. I'm a tall guy, and oh my goodness, it makes my hip flexors cramp up just getting in here. Take a look at my knees. Like, that is not practical for driving around, even for short distances. And the same kind of situation in the back seat. I've adjusted the driver's seat the way that I like it, and there's really not much legroom there. So if you're a tall driver, you're not going to really leave much room for the rest of your crew in the back seat. I was talking about how much I like these seats, and they do look fantastic, but this sort of mixed material, these are 2 of the worst materials in my opinion for cleaning up kid messes. I've grabbed some yogurt here, and I'm gonna put it onto the seat. This is kind of a suede-like material here, this black stuff, and then this white stuff, you can see there are hundreds of tiny little perforations. The back seats are like this too, and in terms of cleaning it up, the suede kind of holds on to the mess and makes it hard to rub off, much harder than conventional leather. And then these holes actually fill with whatever it is that you're trying to clean up, and it's a real challenge. So they look great and they're really cool, but for day-to-day family life, yeah, these seats fall a little bit short. One thing I want to note though is that the white leather, it's not a must-have in the GT trim level. You can also get it in black, because as soon as I saw these white seats, I thought that's not going to work for us. So I'm on to my final day here with the CX-3, and I'm really split on this car. The old single guy in me, before a family and a kid, says it looks so cool, it's affordable, it's really well kitted out for the price you pay, it's fuel efficient, but it's just not going to really cut it for a family vehicle. The legroom is limited, there's not a heck of a lot of room for cargo. If you've got kids going to any kind of sports, you're going to max this out pretty quickly. Maybe as a secondary vehicle, the kind of car that your kids aren't going to be in a lot, it could work out for you. But personally, I would spend just that little bit extra money and look at the Mazda CX-5. It still looks fantastic, but it's just that little bit larger. It costs about $23,000, and it's the kind of car that you can grow into just a little bit more. So, fantastic vehicle in the CX-3, but maybe just not quite in the family realm. Next week on the program, we're going to look at the new 2016 sports wagon hybrid from Lexus, see how that fares. Until then, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you like. Let me know if you'd like to see a review of anything specifically, or if you've got a great suggestion for a family vehicle, let me know that too. I'd love to hear from you. On Twitter, you can find us at Family Wheels. You can always go to the website and contact me through there, familywheels.ca. Thanks for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you in about 7 days.